Morning. That's where I am. Alrighty then. Now, last 2 days I was working on the tutorial part. I think I need a break from that. I think time is to add a new ability, a new combat skill. Most tutorial stuff is cute. I think first thing I'll do is well, maybe before I get into this combat spell, I'm finishing up opening the character screen using the controller. Or at least have it work with the keyboard as well. Wait, no, that's not what I want. I want it to be in the skills. Quick little cleanup as I'm removing these action keys. Might break a few things though. Dead. Morph. West is an A. Oh my, what is this? Move east. Still have a book. I need to replace the book with something else. Something else. Didn't save it. Really? Okay. Oh, that's not right. Why? There you go. Go. Just want at least this to work. Game inputs, huh? This thing's almost touching. Alright, this side is too close. Done. Really? I made a function just for this. Nah. Not good enough to be a function. Hey, what's up, Slantrax? Bob. Actually, you were away. I've renamed this dude into, Bob has a new name now. He's now Carbon Hunter. He's gonna be hunting down all the carbon life form, of which human female is one such creature. So for that, it's time to add a new combat skill to deal with that. I'm thinking what kind of combat skill to add today, because I'm gonna take a break from all the tutorial work. Indeed, always a Bob. Bob the Carbon Hunter. Because all the hints are nice, not gonna lie, it's all cute. I think getting some kind of aerial strike. Like right now when I'm landing a turret, it just drops, which is all good. But I wanted to also, basically like a meteor strike from Diablos. I think that'd be cool. Be lots of particles to add, and just smash it physically into the ground. Well, on the other hand, I might leave actual real physical abilities to the male hero. Because I have the laser. Get away from me. Yeah, why not? Let's just add an orbital strike of some kind. So I can just right click and a huge blob just lands in here. It's been a while since I implemented a new skill. I think it's time to submit it to the main branch. Oh, I was implementing controller support to open up the character screen. Because you have a character screen and different skills. It's all good. And whatnot. Still good. I want to do the same thing with the controller. Right now pressing left to right does nothing. I can quickly change that. State. Wait, where do I keep track of? What kind of buttons are here? Okay. Let's get a controller. Let's see what kind of button it has. Oh, it's just a bunch of bulls? Oh, it is just bull. Okay. I think not to confuse inputs. Let's try that. Oh, that thinks it's an input. Come on. Now I'm pressing a button. Left, right. Yes. Oh, I need to load again? Yes. Excellent. Okay. So that would have been the next tutorial step to open up the equipment. Well, actually I was thinking off screen, off the stream, that if I'm just picking up one item, like I'm doing here, if I take this bob out and I get the item. If all I'm doing is picking up one item, what I should just do is show up like a little preview right here showing what the item is, which you're wearing from a comparable slot, and some single click of a button, you can just see the equipped item, replace it, or maybe you just drop it on the ground if you don't like it. So that way you don't really need to go into this whole big item menu and navigate here to select the item. Most of the time you only really care about the last item you just picked up, and you can immediately just make a decision right there and then with a click of a button. I think it'll be pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. I like that ponytail hair way too much. Way too much. It's a little loud. These guys are just robots, they don't have special names yet. Oh, you know what? It reminds me, I can make custom names by having like two sets of names, like a prefix and a suffix, and generate a random pair out of the two series. Usually looks pretty good, but it's not important. Gotta focus on what's important and essential in the game. I did find that working on a tutorial was actually helpful in a number of unusual ways. And that I can easily tell like what's the next thing to work on in a tutorial. And from that I can figure out what to do, what does the game need. Because right now I have a movement, so I have a tutorial for that. After that it's use the skills, sure. And then itemization, picking up stuff. And maybe like the next bob would give you a level up when you start the game, which will naturally take you to the character screen. Well, I think off the screen, or maybe during late night stream, I actually added a new thing where you can turn off the inputs. Little hints for all inputs you can do. But I think by default my game will start like that. Now those icons might become an issue for localization, but that's fine. That's fine. I also added a cute little animation for little question marks. They just bob a little bit, and when you can approach them, they just hide away. The reason I did that is because otherwise the character would just kind of intersect with the object and it didn't look good. And I think that adds something to it. If I feel bored one day, I can just also make the object a little tilt. Side to side is a tiny amount, but it's good enough. Good enough. Alright. Okay. As promised, let's work on the new combat skill. Merges branch into main. Gotta make sure to use source control for your work. You don't want to be spending Are you doing your own Mario-like game? Odyssey. Is Odyssey like a new recent game? I did play some Diablo 4 recently. It was interesting. Actually not playing with the controller. I got so used to playing my game here with my controller scheme that I felt quite uncomfortable with that. I kept expecting the skills to be kind of aimed for you when using a controller. Oh yeah, when you're looking at the question mark, it's almost like a Mario picking up a star. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, it's always because the scaling animation is like the easiest animation to implement, as opposed to doing like a fancy shade that just kind of like does something to the object transparently and whatnot. What the hell? What? Oh, this range is wrong. It needs to be that. One tiny little character can mess your whole program up. That's the one painful thing about programming. Just many other places you can just kind of skate by. Like if you're writing an English paper somewhere and you miss a dot somewhere, it's not the biggest deal. But here just everything just crashes down. Everything. Okay. So I'm doing New scale, I will need the new slide right here for the scale. Skills panel, yes. Duplicate this. Whoa. Skill IDs. Oh. I added a new skill thing. That's right. It's because I shoved the homing projectile right here. I never particularly liked it. I guess I haven't showed it on screen, but a few days ago I actually implemented a new type of attack to the bad dudes. I can show that quickly, I think. The idea is that usually little bobs in here, they just shoot a straight shot at you if they, even if they don't have direct line of sight. But then I added a lobbing ability to them. Bro, I need to save this volume. But in this configuration, if they can't hit you directly, they're just gonna lob it. The problem I found is that it was really difficult to tell when something moves in an arc versus a straight line when looking from this angle. So it's really hard to actually dodge them to get a feel on that. So even though it's cute how it worked and this guy's just gonna lean back to make that shot, I just didn't like it. It's too hard to read. I'm trying to make the game be super clear about everything and being able to read all the shots. Yeah, you can even shoot over the wall, which is cute. But, yeah. Yeah. As opposed to if you turn that off, they're just gonna pounce each other in the back. You can see them, they're just shooting each other in the back like there's no big deal. Wait, is volume not being saved? I'm not sure if I like those bright reflections on the floor from each ball. It's kind of visually distracting. I have to think about what to do about that. Like reflections are nice and all, but that's too much reflection. Yeah, actually initially when I first implemented this, it was worse than that. I wonder if I have a video of that. But for a while, you know, when I first implemented that, they were shooting each other in the back really hard, and they would actually take each other apart. That was kind of funny. Oh, that's some funny bugs. Now, one time I was trying to implement like really long hair, but it didn't look particularly good, so I gave up on that. Huh. Yeah, I don't see the mutual distraction. Well, I could simulate the way it worked, I think. Maybe not. Like if I can tell it can hit its own robots. Let me see. That might be enough to make them shoot each other. No, they still don't take damage. Oh my. Must be overriding this somewhere else. Well, the thing is, the reflection coming from these little balls that they're shooting out, it's not even a shadow. It's actually just a reflection. Yeah, with a shadow, but shadows, I don't find them as annoying, they're kind of muted. But this reflection here is pretty intense. You can even see it here on the wall. Yeah, those are reflections. It's like they're too reflective. Now, the good news is, because this is my render, I can specifically introduce an option where I can just turn off reflections for certain objects. So I can just make this thing still be bright, but just not reflect off of anything. They can still cast shadows, but just not reflect. It's actually one of the new first things I saw as the power of customability. Is that I can, for example, just go take a look at one of the projectile and I can just turn off shadow casting. Boom. Like it's just gone. All I can make it be visible, but I have a shadow. Right now, funnily enough, casting shadow controls reflection too. Or you could have a visible but no shadow. Now in the past, I used to have a building with a roof, and I use it there where you can hide the roof but still have it cast a shadow down. Because right now you get both the shadow and the reflection. It's a bit too much. Because now it feels like almost like this is gonna hit you in the face. Like what I do like is when I get the line of a laser, that I don't mind from the player itself. But all the 1,000 little bullet holes from the robots, that's too much information. You don't need that. I think one of the principles I want to do in the game is be very economic about any kind of graphical, visual effect and information to the player. I don't know. The game is some music is a little loud. Okay. At some point I'll have to go back to world generation, but for now I'm making these little cute chunks of the world. I think it's totally fine. This is the way actual world works. Just spawns it. Or now actually creates a whole new chunk as well. Go too far away, it deletes it. Now in the future I can extend this range so that it's always visible to your camera range. But this works for now. Okay. So what to do about this thing? Oh, that's what I want. I need to add a skill description right here. Okay, for this. The actual new skill to work on is guess for now just go with like an airstrike. Hey, what's up, Alexander? And now Alexander, versus mine is technically even no Alexander, but yeah. Let me see. So I have a component.h. Do I store all my components in here? Yeah, I've thought about it. Right now I definitely have everything inside one giant component header. Where is it? It's got a little big. 2,500 lines of code, just that. I thought about breaking it apart, but the thing is, for an indie game, I just don't see any value right now. Plus the fact that it's all in one place. I also have this single enumeration for all the components I have. So technically speaking, if this was like actual proper game engine, I would be really struggling adding customization on top of that. So no, right now it's not gonna stop me from doing any kind of module approach. But I'm not building a game engine, I'm just building a game, so I figure this is completely fine and reasonable. Plus this is just plain old data, so it's not that big of a deal. The only thing that does suck is that when I'm modifying a component, that kind of leads to compiling the whole game from scratch. Just because that this header files everywhere. So that's a little annoying. But even so, right now everything compiles fairly fast, so it hasn't been a problem. I can always break it up later or something, but yeah. I just don't see any value. And I get a lot of benefits by having everything in one place and kind of clean. Because I don't have any custom DLLs as well, it's just like one executable. There's no sub-modules. I used to work with a game engine, so yeah, in that case everything was separate DLLs. And you could optionally merge them into a single executable if you wanted. Yeah, you could even merge all the binaries as necessary, whatnot. Although in this case, I don't think it's gonna. That works for a 2D game for sure. But right now, every time I compile code with my CMake setup, I actually do more than just compile. I actually process all the shaders, basically compile all the shaders, and then copy all the files and assets into the folder. So every time I click compile, I get ready to go publish build. Essentially, you could just take like this whole folder that's called debug here. You can just take it anywhere, and it has everything here. It has the executable, all the DLLs necessary to run. And as far as size goes, right now, the largest object is this. Is the 15 megabytes of the female hero, and that's just the beginning, and that just got started. So that's already growing. Now Blender files like freaking 70 megabytes. It's killing my LFS pretty hard. Something to worry about. And I think that female binary file is growing just because of animation, all the triangles and so on. Because I ended up needing to add a whole bunch of objects. I think I've only added maybe like 8 different type of clothing that she can have. That's about it. And so by the time the game is done, there'll be probably at least a couple hundred more. So I'd imagine this file is going to be growing in size pretty big. So Packing all in the same executable probably not gonna help a whole lot. I also haven't worked yet on the on packing everything into one giant blob. So right now everything's a separate file. But it hasn't been a problem so far. Because what I'm doing actually is every time you launch the game, I track how long it took to load all the assets. Right now it takes half a second. So for example, this will be what? Some maybe 20 megabytes of stuff to read. And the whole startup time for the game takes a second to go from just going into your main file and then actually drawing your first frame. So it's kind of hard to complain. Starting the game and just goes boom and just launches. It's like who cares about optimization at this point? I'm sure at some point I will hit that limit. It's going to be too slow. Maybe once I test on a slow laptop it'll be slower, I'm sure, but it's reasonable. Plus this is actually running in debug mode. This is not release build. So right now my CPU time frame is about 5 milliseconds. When I compile in release mode properly, it's like half a millisecond. No. So do I load everything up front? So all the assets I do load up front. And I do track it. I have so it's actually kind of cool because I have my own render. I like know down to like every little thing exactly what's going on. So I have a thing that tracks, hey, how much of a graphical heap memory do I use? How many like let me see. So for example, I can literally have a little layout of, hey, here's what I allocated in GPU memory. Here's all the memory sizes for the meshes I had to allocate. Because I load all the meshes that I need into memory, GPU memory right away, because they're fairly small. Some of them kind of larger. You can see kind of the growth size growing out. You know, all images right now are loaded in memory as well. So again, you can see the sizes. Most images are pretty small, so it's not a big deal. And I can keep track of that. Because most nowadays GPUs have plenty of memory. Even like integrated GPUs have a couple of gigs easily. So I haven't hit the problem. If anything, right now the biggest image sizes complaints I have, it's actually the it's on the dynamic allocator, yeah. Because console allocator is my GPU memory allocator for things that doesn't change, like all the assets and whatnot. Whereas dynamic is where I spawn all the images, for example. Like the size of the images for the 2K resolution is basically 40 megabytes each. Yeah, because at some point I wanted to know exactly how much I'm using, exactly where everything is going in terms of layout and so on. Because the thing of Vulkan in general in DirectX is that you can't just make separate allocations. You need to allocate like one giant blob and then take things out of it as necessary. And that's what I've had to do. I've tried to use one of the Vulkan existing libraries to do it, but I just didn't want to give up all the controls. I had some other weird crashes with it, so I just gave up and did that. And so you can see here that, for example, the bloom effect requires me to allocate a couple extra images. And because I'm tripling buffering, I have to have 3 copies of the same screen over and over again. So that you draw first frame, you go to the second frame. So while the first one is being generated, you prepare the second one, and it requires extra memory as well. But yeah, so I can see exactly how much it's changing. And so what I also do is that I can actually switch my renderer to a different mode, and you will see all the memory layout change slightly. And that way I could track, am I increasing my memory usage, just stay constant, am I dropping anything? It's pretty sweet. For example, here's my acceleration structures. It's still there, just not releasing, whatever. But yeah, the other thing, because I'm loading everything in assets, that means I don't have to worry about switching a bunch of things when I'm drawing a frame. So Let me see. So for example, I use on-site graphics to profile my applications once in a while. Oh, actually, stop that. And so now I'm running inside graphics. And if I capture the frame, now what I can do is take a look, hey, what kind of commands am I executing every frame? Right, for example, you can see like, hey, what's the expensive portion? What's taking up the most amount of time? And then while I was working on this render, that's exactly what I was looking at. I was like, hey, what's taking long? And one thing you notice is that, I noticed before, is that anytime you try to allocate anything on GPU per frame, yeah, it's gonna hit you pretty hard. Whereas right now, the slowest part is just running ray tracer, which is fine. Everything else is fine. So in this case, if I search for allocate, it just basically nothing comes up. There's just no allocation, there's no freeing. Even creation is very limited just to some few ray tracing calls. There's basically no loading, unloading, any kind of GPU memory allocation per frame at all. So because of that, it just flies. It is very satisfying. Hey, Fatal Error, join a Discord. Welcome to game development land. Okay. I was working on the new combat skill. Let's see, airstrike, fine. That's the data. Yes, right here. Now another thing I do is that I don't do any scripting at all of any kind. It's all just pure C++. So I'm sure I'm hitting some limits in terms of extensibility in the future, but it's just all that extra extensibility always such a headache. So many other drawbacks. I just don't care. Oh, what is this? Oh, we're trying to scale cooldown. Right. We'll get to that in due time. Another approach is that I don't have like all the systems fleshed out in depth. So oftentimes when I'm taking on a new task, that's when I end up needing to do something twice or 3 times because I don't have systems in place. But it also allows me time to take a look how much of that effort I need to actually do. Let's see. I thought there would be a name somewhere. Oh no, I made it into this structure. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Oh, I hit that fast? Fine. But I love sharing this tool. Once tool absolutely saves me an insane amount of time is the Life Plus Plus. Now, it's a paid tool that I pay a few bucks a year, but it allows me to treat C++ almost like it's a scripting language. Most of the time I don't need to restart my game at all. It just automatically compiles and hot patches it at runtime. Hell yes. Yeah, I've definitely heard of tools that we can actually have treat C++ as an actual scripting language where you actually just apply a C++ thing into it. Which is fine, at least it's something. My only worry about any kind of embedded scripting environment, even if it's C++, not so much the performance, but being able to analyze and debug the issues later. Because usually, like in C++ right now, I can have the whole call stack up top to bottom. It's pretty easy to go to any level and see what's going on. But the moment you have some kind of layer to go somewhere else, be it visual scripting or any kind of scripting language, then it's going to be suddenly, for example, you'd be jumping into Lua, and it's really difficult to track what exact the values there. Like, for example, in Unreal Engine, going from C++ to Blueprint, while you're debugging, man, it is really difficult. Especially if it jumps multiple times across the frame. It's just easy to lose track. Let's see, skills panel. And this is gonna be skill 5. Oh, this one is not showing up. Interesting. Skill slot. Yeah, skill name, skill name. Interesting. I thought I modified this to have this, no? Somehow didn't take. Interesting. Airstrike is here. And yet... and yet... does not appear here. Don't need to restart. Okay, let's see what is going on here. Airstrike is here. Oh wait. What's limiting it? Count. Whoa, that is wrong. Why would you do that here? No, 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 no. Wow, that was wrong. Boom. Excellent. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. It's updated that, but not that. Interesting. Really? There you go. Okay. Okay. I have a UI. Nice, updated new component. I gotta say, I have way too many components by now. Like, I already have over 200 components, bro. I just got started. Okay. I don't know if it's the best way to have a separate component per ability, but I think it's okay. Charge. Like, a lot of stuff is common. Should probably combine that elsewhere. Maybe. No, it's not damage per hit. In this case, it would be damage on landing. Maybe an impact radius. It's gonna be AoE damage, area of effect. Damage cost, yes. Initial speed. I wish there was an easier way for me to handle registering components, but because I built it out with my own reflection system, I do have to do a bunch of steps. Probably the most painful one is this file, actually. Component age is not as bad as this file going to 8,000 lines of code. Oh boy. Oh boy. At one point, I actually almost created just a custom API layer on top just to provide reflection. But I ended up not using it entirely, just threw it out. That might bite me in the ass later. But oftentimes I ended up providing a lot of custom logic in here while reflecting it to the editors on GUI, otherwise save it. But it does give a headache while writing code out. Okay. What I should do instead of this? No. It's the wrong block to copy. That's what I need to use. By the way, I used to use Unreal Engine to prototype this game. And Unreal Engine uses Live++ as well. But boy. First of all, it's using an older version. And second of all, it has way more craft to work with. So hot reloading things in Unreal Engine 4 or 5, it is barely fast than just compiling it from scratch. Barely any faster. I once tried it on the laptop and it took over a minute to hot patch a single line of code change in like in an actor class. Now it's just so painful. Okay. There goes component reflection. Amusingly enough, I think right now about 30% of my code base is just reflecting components to the IM GUI. Yeah, Flex in fact already does that. Anytime you register, you actually registering components for you. So I don't really need to register them to work with them. In fact, I used to just not, I can just not reflect a component at all, it doesn't matter. It will continue to work just fine. So Flex does a little tricks, where it does little static counters to indicate if it needs to go by one and so on. The thing is though, is that I didn't want to use the Flex's reflection system, I wanted to handle it myself. And more than that, just registering is not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is to reflect it to IM GUI and reflect the little sub-properties. And also provide a way how to serialize it to a JSON file right now or to any kind of file in the future. So for now, just build something really straightforward and requires some manual headache when you add a component. So now that we have that, we can add this airstrike ability, and boom, now we have that. Just doing all this in a pretty way in IM GUI, that's really what takes time. I'm in health for release mode if I decide to take out IM GUI entirely, which I might not. That would save a lot of compilation time, just if-deffing the whole IM GUI portion out. Okay. So let's see. I want to airstrike. Choose an airstrike. Good. Now, right now, it's not going to do anything, right? Right. I used to work with regular approaches to entity component systems. We have one component, and you're just gonna dynamically allocate all little components and add them to it. And this is the engines I used to work with. Unreal Engine does, by default, comes with the same approach. We have the actor and actor components. But when I started this project, then I went to a very different approach. Like back when all I had was just a little triangle. I went with our entities component system. In this case, I'm using Flex, but this has a very different approach. So I can just take this as a start. Instead of define components with just the data, and then you get to define the context that you're working with. Like in this case, I'm working with the airstrike. It needs energy, animation stage, or bone attachment. No, it doesn't need that. In front of foe is fine. Mm-hmm. Yes. Now when I'm shooting a laser out, I'm actually attaching it to end of a bone of a hand. So those systems find that position exactly. But this one doesn't need it. It'll just call something down on the ground. Now there's a lot of common code though. I don't need this portion though. Yeah, this is a portion I keep doing over and over again, which is figuring out if there's enough energy to use, if at all. That is definitely there. I might combine that in the future. Might. Don't need this. Yeah, it doesn't need direction. Because this already tells me where it needs to be landing. Yeah, like for example, here's my user interface stuff, and like almost all of that is just IMGUI stuff. Little adjacent things, like it's pretty tiny, it doesn't really do much. There's always unknown little descriptions. Now most of that is fairly simple. Something gets more complicated when you like want to select a texture. In this case, you want to have a pretty combo thing where you can select all that out. Or when you, for example, go to the skin mesh, you like want to select which particular submesh you want, and then you might want to have some hints, such as a particular ID it is. This is one that code begins to explode. On the other hand, I don't need to worry about all those multiple layers in between trying to get some particular custom feature in, because I've worked with systems like that before and all this exploding complexity. Now, launch an airstrike. I don't need direction. I guess that would be just some kind of hide up. Don't need but that. Sure, just make a prefab for it, but it's kind of nice to just define everything in the code. There's a benefit to that as well. Because some abilities can be used by robots, but anything that looks like really good is probably going to be just a player most of the time. Robots are going to be like simple attacks. Nothing fancy. So reflection to memory for UI. Well, it depends what you mean by UI in this case. I have IMGUI, which is kind of developer UI. That just kind of can be turned off at any time. And then there's actual UI, which is my UI library. I wonder if an UI library just a set of entities, just like the game, just does some 2D stuff. So the only thing that I have that's in memory would be writing out into a JSON file. Everything else is just in GUI. For example, some in GUI gets a little fancy, like picking a sound. You do this combo selectable, but everything else you just write to a JSON file, read from there. Oh, yeah, this is, I decided to separate component reflection out just a little bit so the file size is not completely massive, because I don't want to be working with 20,000 lines of code of just reflection. Yeah, this is all it is, to just reflecting UI specific components. It's just a separation. But aside from that, it does exactly the same thing. There's a bunch of rapid JSON calls, writing into the file, reading from a file, and so on. Yeah, just a bunch of brain dead work. A lot of time I just copy things around. Just check boxes, left and right, whatever. Okay, that looks good. If I treat it as a particle, as a projectile, it might just work straight up. I just need direction to be down. Boom. Max speed? I don't know, configure it later. Sort of 20. It compiles. Hey, I didn't save my skills. Strike. Spawn anything? Didn't see it. Spawn things. Oh, I didn't save player. Strike. No, it's not going yet. Fine, I'll restart you. Okay, now we'll go ahead. Am I missing something? I think I am. Yeah, I have a separate thing out here. It's so annoying. It's duplicating so much effort. Whatever. Next time implementing the next skill, I'll handle this together in one place. It's good enough for now. Okay, let's see what's going on. Oh, whoops. go here. Oh. Okay. That's the basic idea. So now, first things first, definitely need to add more configuration into it. Hide speed. Where's that one? Cancel for now. Unfortunately, that is not going to fly if I reload. It's the only unfortunate part. Because another thing I do is that I skip all the dynamic memory allocation. So instead of just work with one giant block of memory, 734 megabytes. So anytime I modify a component, it kind of shifts everything in the memory. So it's code layout changes do not work well. Let's see. Ten. Let's say 50. And this is where I'm getting all this lame extra lines of code. Hey Lucas, am I using any kind of graphical library? Yeah, I'm using Vulkan. That's basically it. Now, when I first started, I was actually, I mean, I've used a couple engines before trying to see if I can work with that. But in the end, decided I wasn't happy using another game engine or different graphics library. I wanted to have the power of having it on my own. So initially, I actually started this project on GitHub. Like this was actually the beginning of my game, not this one. That started maybe a year and a half ago. And initially, this was built on DirectX 12. I was just building this from scratch. Now, since I forked this project entirely, so it's no longer mine. I haven't touched this in over a year. But the overall layout is actually the same. I still have shaders, just have GLSL now. I still have my own render, just now it's... Actually, even this one was eventually built out onto a Vulkan render. I'm just gonna give up on it. Once I kind of quit my job, I went to separate mode. So now I have everything and I have my code is private. But this is kind of the public build of it. Yeah, but first I'm using DX12, but I got stuck into it and I couldn't quite figure out a whole bunch of issues with it, so I gave up on that and I switched to Vulkan. And the Vulkan has so many examples. Like Vulkan has so many examples to learn from, like, oh my goodness. Like this is my first thing I was learning on, the Vulkan tutorial. Has pretty good amount on that. But really at this point, the best Vulkan source I can recommend is just reading the docs. Let me see. Yeah. I think at this point I almost read through the whole specification for Vulkan. Yeah, even though it takes a while to load, but yeah. Now why am I just not using a simple library instead for graphical stuff? In the past, the one thing I always had a problem with is that I can implement all the pretty graphical parts, like have object explodes, whatever, but I couldn't. Always had limits of how much control I had graphical over things. Like, sure, you can have some simple meshes that libraries provide for you, but I always wanted to have like extra options. Like, for example, let's say I'm launching this, and I decided, you know what? I don't like the fact there's reflection here. In this case, this is my ray tracing render, so it has reflection. If you don't have a disable that, otherwise you don't get any reflection. Well, let's say I want to have my ray tracing, but I don't like this thing being so brightly reflected. Now I don't have a feature for that right now, but as an example, I could turn off that shadow that's right here. And boom, no longer cast a shadow. Or I can have the object but have a shadow be there, or vice versa. So I could at some point add another toggle to disable this powerful reflection for some objects I don't care about. So just nice to have the power of control. Another one is that because I have two renderers, this particular version actually runs on integrated GPUs. For example, I have an Intel, and I've actually tested running this game on the built 10 GPU that the Intel has. And at 1K resolution, I actually get 60 frames a second, which is pretty nice. But especially as an indie, why limit your customer base unless you really need to? Okay, starting speed. Come on, there you go. Life changing. Oh wait, speed is not that. It's okay. What is this music? Alright. Now back to ability. Now this is an airstrike, so it needs a starting height. Can do it right here. So that handles that. So it can be quick height, it could be a big height. Now speed. So for shadows, the interesting thing about shadows is that I have very few light sources right now, so I don't bother with that. The other one is when you implement ray tracing doesn't care for selecting things. I wonder actually if I have a video of that. I think I might have it somewhere. What's this? Yeah, ray tracing, you actually build out a scene that you can view in debug mode later. So you actually really need to build out your whole full thing. So in this case, the shadow, you just really just cast a ray trace from a point towards your direction light or whatever. Now in the future, if I decide to have 1,000 lights, yeah, I'll need to do something, but really, it's, yeah. Yeah, back to Lucas. It definitely, just to get the game out, it's definitely easy to use an existing game engine for sure. You'll have to pay some price to dealing with some slowness and so on, but you'll definitely get the game out faster. But as an engineer, it just feels so much more comfortable to have your own tech. In worst case, you can always hire some graphical expert to help implement some particular specific features. Non-ray tracing. Yeah, what I do right now from non-ray tracing is that shadows are kind of limited. I think I have a component which targets at the point of interest, so it's specific to the player. So as the player moves, it kind of moves the area where the shadows are being applied. But all it is kind of just a stupid shadow port. Just gonna put the camera somewhere, put the fake camera where the light source is, and then draw all the objects from there. But also in this case, because my world is generated as I go, I don't particularly need to worry about selecting all the objects because there's only so many objects active at one time. So I can solve the problem in many cases. Yeah, but yeah, when it comes to shadow, there's a million ways to implement this, and it's all get super complicated and so on. One thing that keeps me more at peace of doing all that is just thinking, do you really need that graphical feature for the game to be successful enough? For example, one thing that I'm not doing any what's called cascading shadows, so my shadows are pretty nasty. On the other hand, in ray tracing, you get this pixel perfect shadows for doing absolutely nothing. Just nothing. It just happens. It's pretty sweet. I need to apply the speed. It's a large range, huh? Come on. Oh yeah. I'm just smashing it. Actually feels nice. What thing do you want? I want a way bigger mesh here. Do I have a scale here? I don't see a scale. Let's add a scale. It's a bit big, huh? That is like really big. Yeah, the size, I guess it's okay when it's really fast, but yeah, it's a bit big. That kind of thing might require an actual particle good implementation, but I guess it's something actually attacks him. I'm curious. So you just bump him on the head. But now, for a strike to be fun, needs to have... I think it needs to explode from the ground or something. It needs way more particle hits. You also need some kind of physical push to everything around. But at least easy enough to add some random strikes. Now, one thing I was able to do in this custom implementation is that I was able to implement custom animation system where I can actually, because this robot is actually skinned mesh, and despite that I can take a chunks out of him until he completely falls apart. Now usually if you look for like destructible skin meshes in a game engine, that doesn't show up. You're not supposed to be able to do that. I'm not doing any kind of particular magic, you're just gonna replace the model with something else. But still nice. Yeah, like this is the robot by itself, but then I also have little pieces of them. They're all skinned as well, but I can choose which ones I show, which ones I don't show. And from that I can imitate as if you can take chunks out of them. Also, because the animation system is mine, I know how I'm pushing all the matrices in. So in this case, when the bunching and shove in the back, it actually affects the position of that root bone, the spine bone. And I make them like ignore the motion animation for a bit and add that particular snapping motion to them. Yeah. And I do kind of a direction away from the shot. Makes it nice and cute. Nobody dropped any items yet? Hold on. Oh, there you go. Yeah, complicated system oftentimes. Can get out of hand pretty quick. Especially if you're working like in a general system that somebody else will use, but you don't exactly know how they will use it. That can be a pain. Because you just end up implementing like 30 different features, and who knows if they work well enough for what they need, performance-wise and everything, how it works together, it becomes a giant mess. But when you have a specific game in mind, like here, it's so much more relaxing, because then I can do, I know exactly what I need. And in worst case, I can always give it up and take a different take. I'm still enjoying the ponytail animation simulation. I remember when I first started on that, it took a good week to implement this hair simulation. I'm talking about some animation for text and panning. That almost sounds like a UI animation. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is what I was implementing my hair strands in the beginning. At first I was just replacing all the bones of physical objects connected for joints. And then had to be applied to the actual skin mesh. That took, I think that was the most complicated math I've done on the project. So that is not inverse kinematics. This is just pure physics. I'm really just creating fake joints, fake object, well, just creating physical object connected to joints and let it run for physical simulation. And for a long time, it was just so broken for so damn long. Like at some point I had correct positions, but then I couldn't get the right way into a skin mesh. Oh my god, and eventually over time it got worked out. Yeah, attack spanning effect, yeah. Yeah, 2D animation can be separate beast from 3D animation like this. With its own requirements. But eventually it's worked. This is like the first time it worked. It still had a few like weird glitches where the hair would spin in place because of certain imprecisions and matrix imputation I was doing. Eventually I was able to find a way to fix it, but yeah. No longer has any issues. But it used to have this weird spinning things right here, like it would just spin through. Just like the joint points directly down, and depending which angle it comes from, he would like decide on to apply a different spin. And it took a while before I finally fixed. This is the one I finally fixed. But yeah, but for a while it was just wonky. You just do 180 suddenly. It was so funny. But yeah. Well, so it's not supposed to spin. The actual physics object has a spin disabled. So it can only do like kind of swing around, but it's not supposed to spin at all. Because I'm using PhysX, so I'm defining I take a 6-degree freedom joint, and I'm disabling twist. I believe that's what they call it a twist. So the physical object does not twist. However, when you go from position of a joint into skin matrix, you have to take you have to do it the right way, and that took a while to figure out. And when you convert a vector into a skinning matrix, there's many ways to solve that, and if you don't do it the right way, you will introduce like random twist flip into it, and that's what it was. That was my initial damage, but that didn't feel as good. Let's add it some more. Physics, well the thing is, if you go look for 3D physical libraries out there, there's very few out them. In the past I've used Open 3D Dynamics engine, ODE, the Open Dynamics engine. But it was kind of sluggish and has its own issues. But physics I've used before in the past, game engines outside, so I know it for like probably a decade now, so it works okay. No, it does its own painful things. Let's see. I don't think I have. And I have some memory profiles here and there. Unfortunately, physics likes to have its own method, a virtual method is everywhere, and oftentimes it allocates a good number of memory objects on the fly. Let me see. Track. Let's see. Oh, I have it in the physics system. No, it needs to restart. At one point I had a weird memory leak actually in my game. And I don't dynamically allocate at all, so man, I went on the hunt. I had like a memory tracker for just about everything I was using. So for example, here's all the physics memories being allocated. Now most of them are kind of stable, just write it once and they're fine. But every frame, it always tries to allocate a few of them here and there. It always, like it's like a few at a time. And every frame it does something. It's kind of annoying. Now it doesn't grow in size, so that's fine, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. Process memory. Yeah, I ended up adding this little tool to track am I working set with process growing or not, and how many bytes am I growing per frame on that. No, it used to be pretty bad. It used to be like 1,000 bytes per frame. Oh my god. In the end, it turned out it was actually profiles using the trace seals turned on. And that thing just kept allocating memory in the background. I'm guessing it was saving the states of everything. But it was too much. But at least now I can mostly see it. It's mostly stable. It's not growing much. Now, there is one thing I'm actually considering to replace physics entirely with Jolt library. I don't think it's any significantly smaller. Just that I want to be able to add some kind of clothing simulation to the character. And physics only supports GPU simulation, which would be fine, but then that GPU means only NVIDIA GPUs. So that's a bit too much limiting. At least Jolt can do CPU clothing simulations. So for simple clothing that I would be using would be fine, but it will take like at least another couple of weeks to replace everything with Jolt, so I'm pushing it back way later. Now what I do need to add maybe I'll keep it simple for myself. I can make this arrow strike be made out of like a whole bunch of little separate projectiles. So instead of doing like a whole fancy particle system, just have a bunch of them in different heights, just fall down together more or less. Almost like a little blizzard. But first, oh, I forgot about impact radius. Okay. Braindead copy. No, didn't say. Oh, it failed to compile because of the wrong order. Fine. There you go. Yeah, I like that idea. Spawn a whole bunch of them. No, these don't use the same animation, just a simple object. So instead I created a separate object just for that. I called it simple animation. All it does is a little sine method to compute the differences. And you can like change the speed, change how much the amplitude goes by. It can be like scale up. This doesn't work here. Yeah, so just for that. But yeah, it actually reminds me, when I was working at the Amazon Gaming Studios, somebody was applying an actual full rigged skeleton animation to doors. And they would build out this whole complicated system just to swing a door on this, on the edge. It was so funny. Because that just uses so much extra computation and memory and whatnot. It wasn't just that, it was the fact that you also have like a whole state machine built out, like what state it in, is it being opened, is it about to be closed, who knows? So it was like a giant thing, it was a huge performance drag. But that's kind of what you get when you have people using a system they don't particularly understand what happens under the hood. Versus like where I'm doing everything, I know like anytime I add like another bone, it's gonna be a cost, it's gonna be involved in this particular system. Oh yeah, one thing I learned of GPU of Vulcanac is to be able to add little inserts into your render on the GPU side. And then you can actually tell how much time you're spending on different portion of your graphical frame. And then you can suddenly measure like, hey, what's taking too long? What's fast? What's slow? And that's pretty cool because this is all pretty much runtime information. You know what? It's been a while since I really, bro, why is this always... It's been a while since I run my game from the integrated graphics. Let's do that. It's been a while. Let's see. Force. Integrated GPUs. Yes. Let's go. Here we go. Integrated GPUs coming up. It's gonna be slow until I resize the window to make it smaller. Hopefully it doesn't crash and does anything weird. Now first of all, it takes longer to start the game. Hey, we're getting 30 frames. On what are we using? Intel UHD graphics 770. But this is almost a 4K resolution. If we bring it down to more like 2K, 40 frames. And if I bring up GPU timestamps, see what's slow. Oh yeah, Bloom, the new version of Bloom takes 3 milliseconds just there. And if I turn off Bloom, it will obviously go faster. But even though it's 60 frames, even with all that. Let's see what happens when we have more skin meshes around. Still running fine. There you go. Running integrated GPU. Pretty sweet. Alright, let's go back to my pretty NVIDIA card. Force GPU false. Yeah. Yeah, because integrated GPUs nowadays are actually pretty good. I was surprised. Although the way that the things that makes them run slowly was very unusual. When I first run on integrated GPUs, it was like, I was getting like maybe like 8 to 10 frames at best, FPS wise. And I found out what was dragging me down was actually clearing color. Like clearing color was just too slow because I had too many image buffers to work with. So I ended up, I think at the time I was doing some special effect required me a whole bunch of buffers. So the moment I get rid of extra images, suddenly everything will begin to run fast. It was awesome. Wait, why is this not registering as a hit? I thought it's supposed to like... Interesting. So... So this registers as a hit, but not the other way. I'm assuming the integrated GPU runs on CPU directly, and so whatever. It's probably some kind of weird simulation that might have some kind of hardware underneath. I haven't read particularly too much in depth into it. There's only so many things to focus on. But it does remind me of one thing. Is that one of the things I do want to do is, while the character's moving around, does its little attacks. It's kind of locked in place with very little motion to the hands. Let me zoom in. What I want to do is somehow have the hand kind of change the position a bit more. But for that, what I need to do is implement an actual inverse kinematics. I have to do from scratch, but I do have kinematics. Bro, I know it's here somewhere. Yeah, on this paper. I actually read through it. It actually even has like code to show you exactly how to implement it. I'll have to do it at some point. And then I can do pretty hand actually moving towards the goal independent from the body, and that will look great. Because right now it's just animation. So there's only so much of it to look good, but on the other hand, has already spent a good amount of time working with the character improvements. There's only so much that you can do on that. Let's see. No, it's aiming. Yeah, just aim. So I do a little bit of hand motion to it, but it needs more. Oh, 1,000 bones that I have. Why then? Looks like I don't have. Oh, it does have. Sometimes it doesn't. Huh. Let's see, hits. Robot. Yeah. Oh, was it hitting? Must have been hitting the pole. Oh, okay. The object is just too big. Still not a reliable thing. Yeah, once I have a K, then I can actually decide where the point is, how to kind of move it as you for each use a skill. Also, depending where your kind of the body's facing the turn, you can do slightly ahead of time. Yeah, you can do a whole bunch of things to it. Although on the other hand, for now the character is good enough for now, but yeah, I'll get to it eventually. I'll definitely, once I get to the male hero, because then it's going to be like actual smashing robots directly. So in that case, I will definitely need IK to actually attach like the hands to punch the robot and so on. I'm sure that will take like probably a good week to implement IK in a decent way. It's not enough just to do IK, you also need to implement like a transition between the animation towards IK, because you don't want the hand just like immediately snap in the next frame, so you need some kind of smoothing motion. We'll interpolate between the two matrix sets. And I'm sure more things I don't know yet we'll discover. No. It's almost lunchtime. Before that, I want to do the following. I want to strike. I should really just make a prefab out of this, because I'm gonna have multiple ones. Drop like a whole bunch of them. But maybe for now we'll just do a quick. Drop like 5 of them. Right. In this case, I need to vary the position just a little bit. Really? See? What happened so fast? Hold on, let's slow it down. Let's slow it down. Okay. Not bad overall. Maybe they're just too big and fat. I think I want them smaller. Oops. That's funny. Why is it not saving the volume though? I need to look into that. That's actually pretty good, not gonna lie. Let's test on the big slump. This would do more damage, but this is actually pretty good. Let's do more damage. Where's damage? Right here. Yeah, okay, now we're talking. Do I restore CS components of the prefabs memory? So I was gonna do that when I was implementing my own entity components system. Unfortunately, the component system I was working on the side just wasn't fast enough compared to Flex. So what I'm using here is this library called flex.dev. And this is what I've been using since. And so this Flex does have prefabs. It does have prefabs with its own little features that it has. So you can define a prefab and then you can spawn off of it. Now, unfortunately, Flex likes to do dynamic allocations. So you can definitely pre-create the prefab and it loads the prefab into memory. But it doesn't pre-allocate the entities that you just ready to go into that entity, into the new prefabs. So unfortunately right now that means anytime I'm doing this, it actually allocates all the memory out, which makes it a bit sluggish, not gonna lie. Now I can definitely spawn like a separate ready to go examples and just keep them in a disabled state. For sure can do that. And I probably might have to do that because implementing my own entity component system is just proving way too difficult. Man, I like this bombardment. I'm definitely digging it. That is actually amusing. Because right now, for example, the biggest performance issue I have in the game, pretty much the only one right now, is the fact when you go to the new area, there's always delay. Let me see, where's my FPS graph? Like here's my FPS graph. Usually it's pretty nice and stable. This is time frame, milliseconds. But the moment you go across the border and spawns a new one, yeah, it's gonna have that flip. And I've looked into it. Half the time is spent dynamically allocating the memory. The other half is spent inside Flex code doing something. Now, I'll grant you, this is debug build. In release mode, it's even less of an issue. But even so, I don't like that hiccup at all. And in the future, I'm sure I'll have more entities per chunk to spawn. So I'm not too happy with that. That goes up to 14 milliseconds. It's maybe around 5 or 7 on release build. So I might have to do something about that. I don't know. Now I could spend maybe 2 months working my entity component system, which is completely memory allocation free, and then I guess would be no problem at all. My problem was I couldn't implement all the caching correctly for all the different queries and systems, so I haven't bothered too much. I have a separate branch file at work, but for now it's okay, I'll deal with that. Well, just looking like performance right now, well, like when I'm dumping all those little airstrikes, I'm not particularly seeing any hiccups on the frame rate. Yeah, because it's not happening. So small locations don't seem to trouble it, so I'm not too worried. Looks like turned out quite nice. It's more fun than I thought it would be just to dump it all like that. Yeah, right now everything is in the same thread as even for rendering. The thing about that, from when I've looked, I mean, first of all, right now my CPU time when the release build is like less than a millisecond. That's not a big deal. Even if I put it in this different thread anyway, I haven't seen much of a benefit yet. Especially because my rendering right now is just so simple. Now usually renders are very complicated beasts. For example, they will have render graphs, they have frame graphs, and they have to pre-compute a bunch of stuff. The whole computation is very complicated. But for me it's super simple, straightforward. Pretty much like a hard-coded custom path Like first to draw these objects, and I already know what types I need, so it's a very specialized render implementation. So it's just so brain dead dumb, it just doesn't do anything. So it just doesn't particularly trouble me at all. Now in the future, if it ever becomes an issue, sure. Actually, there's one thing I'm doing on the thread, which is that early on, at some point, I was hitting a problem of calling one particular Vulkan API, which builds your ray tracing pipeline. And there used to be a bad driver of creating ray tracing pipeline computation. It took like over a second to compute just that little pipeline object on the beginning of the game. So I actually put that in a separate thread, because even right now it takes a quarter of a second to compute pipelines. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm loading assets while I'm computing that pipeline object. So yeah. Yeah, because my render right now has to talk to all entity component systems. Now Flex supposedly has a way to do that across threads in a efficient way, but I just don't trust it, to be honest. Anytime you add threading, there's always overhead, always mutex objects and so on. It's just so easy to mess it up. I just probably make it fast now. I mean, technically I think PhysX runs on its own thread. I think the audio system I use has its own thread as well. So you can always do that somewhere, but really if you're not doing anything crazy, it should be fine. This is actually a fun skill, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a game like a weird version like that, where it's like a Diablo, but all the aiming is automated. So you don't need particular aim, you're just gonna run around and press the skill that you want to use. It's kind of fun. I'm very happy with that skill. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, that's a good time to save the progress. I don't care about that. Well, that was fast. Yeah, PathFX is definitely great. Yeah, I watched a few lectures by them too. About them building their own renderer, their own engines as well. Let's see. Oh yeah, at some point they were talking about Diablo 4 as well. I remember going for something. Oh no, it was resources. Yeah, I was watching this, is it the render? Oh yeah, all the custom stuff they did for the rendering, what things they've learned. This may be in for Path of Exile too, yeah. Yeah, this was pretty good. Yeah, we were an engine and so can you. Also, looking at their example, if you go back to look at the beginning of first Path of Exile, it was very simple rendering. So really you just need to get enough of a gameplay out to attract people. Now once you have the money, then you can go back and hire the people to implement all this fancy stuff on top. Grim Dawn is also another good action RPG. But the one uses like a way older engine, I think, from like Titan Quest. Alright, I need to get started on lunch, so I'm gonna be popping in and out while I cook my steak. Alright, well that do have a playlist to play at least. These are little videos I have on my project starting from the very beginning. When I first started with just a Vulkan tutorial, just a couple of triangles. Yeah, take care, man.
Still I can't let go. Emotional suicide. Some things you never know. I wonder if my hunger's kill the weak, or does it hide? Some things get lost along the way. Let my mind rain on me. For tomorrow it's too late. I
Alright, lunch has been cooked. I was gonna wait for it to settle down before I consume it. In the meantime, I'll wait on that. Perhaps could do a gaming break. Perhaps. I'll do some cooked chess as a break. That music is not gonna fly though. Bro, what the hell?
I wanna know all the things you believe, your highs and lows, and everything in between. When you pull me close, that's where I wanna be, right here, you and me. Tell me that
Hey
we'll
Google,
meet
stop.
someday, baby, don't leave me hanging. Giving you all my loving, but how am I supposed to know if you feel the same way or if you want me to stay? Baby, just give me something. How am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know?
Oh yeah. It does drop a pawn, huh? Don't it? Doesn't it? That's not good.
It's not too late.
That's a bit too many pawns down.
We've got all day, so show me what is real. 'Cause I don't play no games. This could be the real deal.
Still, his king is fairly open. So surely I can do something nasty. That's one. See one more. Or just mate. Either way works. Wow. Guess I'll just take all the pawns. Hmm. That's no bueno. Alright. I'll play a relaxing game for now.
shout. It's never ever been here before. Through the smoke, I know you're miles away from shore. I go anywhere for you. In the night. When the downtown lights start to come out at night, we go insane. And when I arrive, I start to lose my mind. I go insane. I go insane. 'Cause they told me you take too much. Yeah, I sure do, so I can feel that now. If they only knew how this was, yeah, they would too. Just go insane, we go insane. And when I arrive, I start to lose my mind. I go insane, I go insane. Cause they told me you take too much. Yeah, I sure do, so I can feel that.
Okay. Launch is bad almost over. Do we have a new graphics driver? We do. Let's see if it really crashes my system badly if I get a new driver. Living on the edge. Driver installations in progress. So the driver works, but the GeForce experience has successfully hung. That's interesting. No, that's not what I want. Actually, this is a good time to end the stream for now. I'll be back on later.